The 2026 season is finally underway with the first two regional championships of the season, and that being the Frankfurt Regional Championships and the Monterrey Regional Championships. Now, these two tournaments did have quite a few players. I believe Frankfurt had roughly 740 odd players, and I think Monterrey had around 270. I think if we jump over here onto Nimbasa Post, yeah, so we can see here, Monterrey had 282 players, and yeah, the Frankfurt event had 742. So quite a big showing, you know, about roughly 1,000 players played this weekend. And with that, we had two regional champions. Now, we will touch on Emmanuel's team shortly, but I want to start things off here with Stefan Mott's team that he used to win Monterrey, because this has got to be one of the most interesting Regulation H teams I've seen in a very, very long time. If you guys can see right here, this is a Scyther Garganackle team. Now, I am personally shocked, right? Now, they make sense in theory. You know, I was talking to some of the boys over the weekend about Garganackle in particular. You know, if you have a look at a lot of the top meta threats, right, it has pretty solid matchups, right? You know, if we have a look at these teams here, of course, Incineroar, you hit it for super effective damage with your Salt Cure. Ninetales is a Pokemon that's been rising up quite a bit. We'll touch on shortly, but again, super effective damage. Of course, Goldango, you know, you get that bonus damage from the Salt Cure damage. Again, you look through the list here. Volcarona is a Pokemon 4x, you know, damage to Salt Cure. Obviously, it wants to sit on the board. You know, it wants to click. Of course, Quiver Dance a couple times, Protect Up and whatnot, so very annoying for that. Same thing with Dragonite, right? Dragonite is a Pokemon that, again, being a flying type, does take quite a bit of damage, and it normally kind of wants to run away with the game, so things like Iron Defense can be very annoying for it. And again, the list goes on and on. Sneasler, for example, when you're like Terra Ghost or Terra Flying in this case, obviously, you know, you resist the CC, and one of the beautiful things about Garganackle is its ability. Purifying Salt, meaning that you can't get status, so obviously Diaclaw can't do any of its shenanigans, so again, makes a lot of sense. King Gambit, another steel type, makes a lot of sense, right? When you look at a lot of the top threats in the metagame, Garganackle just has a super positive matchup. So because of that, again, I personally really enjoyed. Of course, Stealth Rock as well is interesting. I did expect to see Iron Defense when I saw this, because Iron Defense just makes the D-Knight matchup in particular very easy. Like, Iron Defense plus Recover and D-Knight will just like never be able to break you. But nonetheless, of course, Stefan Mott won. You know, so shout outs to him. The Scyther as well was super interesting, of course, having close combat. When you look at this team here, it doesn't have the best King Gambit matchup, right? Of course, Goldango, Incineroar, and Ninetales are all pretty average into it. Sylveon is a Pokemon that can deal a bit of damage, but if it's able to set up an SD, obviously it can get super duper annoying. So having something like Scyther with just a, you know, a close combat obviously is very nice. But I did see a post on Twitter from Stefan basically just saying that the whole idea behind Scyther was just a fast flying type that could, you know, one-shot annihilate. So a very, very interesting there. Just, you know, thought it was worth mentioning. But yeah, this has to be one of the coolest teams, right? If you have a look at the whole team, Choice Scarf, Goldango with Terra Steel, this is something we've seen picking up quite a bit. And Goldango plus Ninetales as a combination is also something that has been rising up. It's just an incredibly positive matchup into Rain. When you think about things like Archaludon plus Pelipper, if you're able to switch in the Ninetales after, you know, like they've already basically started setting up, you know, you think about Electro Shot, now it has to charge. Of course, you know, this team doesn't have Encore, but Encore can be very annoying for Archaludon if you don't have weather control. Of course, Goldango also resists the Steel and the Dragon type attacks. And of course, as well with the Pelipper, you know, you set up the Snow, you get rid of the 100% accurate Hurricanes, and then again, Goldango resists Hurricane, and of course with the Snow setup, Weather Ball becomes Ice type attack, which means you also resist that as well. So just a very, very strong matchup into Rain if that is something you are worried about. The Incin being Terrify Flare Blitz, I do think is really cool. I've personally been playing a bit of Assault Vest Incin recently, especially leading up to the GC, and I do think offensive Incineroar is actually pretty slept on. And that's one of the good things about Assault Vest on the Pokemon. It allows you to run more offense because you have an item giving you that natural bulk. So yeah, I did think that was really cool. And then of course, Wish Sylveon with Yawn, also a super interesting tech as well. But yeah, nonetheless, Stefan Mott here just has one of the coolest teams I have seen in a very, very long time. And it's just cool to see that people are still innovating on the format, because I was kind of in a position where I thought the format was almost solved. But again, you look at Stefan's team here, just incredible, right? Really, really good. We have Alexander's team here as well. I'm not going to go too much into this. This is relatively standard. You know, again, this is the second time we've played Regulation H. Everyone kind of knows what these Pokemon do, right? Of course, D-Knight considered to be one of the best Pokemon in the format. Sneasler, another Pokemon considered to be one of the best in the format. Coaching Sneasler plus D-Knight's very, very good. Of course, Electabuzz, one of the best redirection supports we have in the game with the Violite. Super tanky. It has Taunt, it has Follow Me. T-Bolt also being probably like the best electric type in the format. When you think about this format, there really isn't that many electric types. So having something like Buzz is very good, of course. And again, things like King Gambit with Fake Out plus Redirection is just very, very good. Of course, Volcarona, one of the best setup sweepers in the game right now, especially one of the best going up against Goldango with Quiver Dance. It allows you to take things like the Make It Rains, like the Shadow Balls, and of course, being a fire type, naturally resist it. And then Rillaboom's just Rillaboom. I really do think this format is getting to a stage where Rillaboom is probably better than Incineroar. We will pull up some of the usage stats later. And I know Rillaboom was like really, really high. Sorry, Incineroar was really, really high, but I feel like it's getting to a point where it feels like Rillaboom is the superior fake out piece, especially when you have set up mons like Volcarona, right? Just having that grassy terrain to help them just heal up a little bit. Also very good with some of these Sash mons. Obviously, Sneasler's like probably not the best example, but you know, it allows you to take a fake out and then eventually potentially just heal back up to your Sash, which I do think is very, very important. Justin Tang's team here, this is something Tang has been running for a bit, and again, we're kind of seeing that core we mentioned before, that Goldango, Rillaboom plus Sneasler. This core of three here, in particular with the the Grassy Seed, I do think is very, very good. Grassy Seed Goldango just makes it incredibly hard to deal with, right? It just makes it super bulky, it allows you to set up, and with the right supported pieces as well, you know, things like a Tailwind from D-Knight eventually, right? You know, of course, you got the Veil and the Encore support coming out of Ninetales. Another thing worth mentioning as well, this is a big reason why Rillaboom plus Ninetales with Goldie is very good, is the double speed control you get, right? You have the drum beating out of the Rillaboom here, and you have the Icing Wind out of Ninetales. Essentially, what this allows you to do is, like, even if your opponent leads into your Goldango with their own Goldango, you can, you know, go for something like Terra Nasty Plot, and then using either drum beating or the Icy Wind, you're able to outspeed, you know, these timid 252 Goldangos on the other side. So it allows you to play this quite a bit slower. Normally you want to aim for around that, you know, 113, so you outspeed things like the Turbo Bear. But yeah, it allows you to basically just to play super bulky, get up your Nasty Plot, and then reduce their speed using either Ninetales or Rillaboom, and then you just bop them with Shadow Bullet +2, and it's very, very strong. Hisuian Arcanine is another very interesting one in this format. It does really feel like Fire Stab is very, very good. When you look at a lot of the format, Fire Stab's fantastic, and so is Rock Stab. You know, I have seen people joking around about, you know, Rock Blast, Hisuian Arcanine, but, you know, again, in saying that, Rock Slide into D-Knight is very, very good. D-Knight's one of the best mons in the format, so having Intimidate plus a, you know, a stab move like Rock Slide, especially on a mon that does naturally outspeed it, you know, before the boost from Scale Shot, is very, very good. And also, it's another mon that just really benefits from coaching. You know, you can lead things like Arcanine plus the Sneasler, and then you just start coaching up, and eventually you get to a situation where you can just like E-speed through their whole team. So yeah, very, very good team by Tang here. Obviously, you know, one of the best team builders, one of the best players in the world. So yeah, shout out to him. Congrats on the top 4 there. Jonathan also has another interesting team here as well. Something I do kind of want to touch on. So the Friend Guard Mousehold is definitely on the rise again. Mouse Ape does feel very, very well positioned, in particular with Blood Moon Ursaluna with Assault Vest. Basically, Friend Guard plus Blood Moon makes this thing an absolute, like, impossible to kill. This thing becomes so goddamn tanky. Klefki as well, giving the team screens plus terrain control is also incredibly good. Terrain, very, very nice into Sneasler because it allows you to, you know, obviously stop them from, Dire Claw and just like spreading, you know, sleep and poison on your team, which is very nice, of course. And then dual screens just makes the Ape and the Blood Moon Ursaluna incredibly tough to deal with. It really does feel like this is kind of like a 5-mon team where, you know, you're either setting up Ape. I mean, I don't want to say either setting up Ape because Ape is the only setup piece on this team, but it's like you want to set up the Ape or you kind of just want to, you know, make Ursaluna so tanky that eventually it kind of just like beat your opponent's team. And yeah, obviously with Sinistcha, a very, very good Pokemon right now. Healing up the Ape and Blood Moon is incredibly obnoxious if you have to deal with it. Not to mention as well, if you do have issues with Hard Trick Room, Sinistcha is one of the best counters in the game to regular Ursaluna. Obviously being immune to the facades and of course resisting the ground type attacks is very, very powerful. And then finally, T-Tar on this team. It is a bit interesting. I would be curious to find out why T-Tar was the mon of choice. But in saying that, again, it has a very positive matchup into things like Sunroom, which of course is very good. I think having weather control in this format is also incredibly important. And I think that's why also we're seeing a lot of Ninetales, right? You know, of course, we've got that Marco Fiera Sun team running around. A lot of people are playing Rain as well. So I think having the ability to switch up the weather is very good. And T-Tar in itself is just a fantastic Pokemon. Of course, there are a lot of, you know, very powerful fighting types in this format, which is one of the issues T-Tar does have. But nonetheless, it is one of the best Pokemon in the game. Of course, it has a ridiculous base stat total, a fantastic typing. You know, again, 4x weak to fighting is not great, but Dark type in this metagame is just never bad. And then just to round out some of the, you know, the final teams here, I won't touch too much on Marcus's team as this is kind of, actually, I don't want to say it's like not standard, but I believe this is Scarf, but it's actually Sash Bashki. Okay, I'm wrong. Sash Bashki Legion with Liquidation. This is very interesting. This actually looks like a take on Joji's team that he used in the GC, which is interesting. I'm surprised this is Sash over Scarf, but I mean, Terra Ghost adaptability, last respects, actually does go kind of crazy. Again, we see the Assault Vest Insyn, but then these 4 here are just like 4 of the best mons in the game. Again, the Friend Guard Mouse plus like Goldie Ape is crazy, and of course like Tailwind Haze D-Knight is like super good with Specs Goldango, right? Like, you know, you scale shot, you get up the Tailwind, you know, Goldie's like -2, then you haze it. It just, yeah, it feels pretty damn strong, man. What about the other two teams? We'll touch on this team. I mean, look, we'll touch on William first. I was kind of like holding off on Williams. Again, this is kind of the way it feels like Reign's going outside of Greninja, which is actually also like really, really interesting when you think about it. But yeah, you are seeing a lot of these Reign teams adding on things like Sinistcha. Sinistcha just gives you a very good matchup, as we said before, into regular Ursaluna. A very, very powerful mon in the format. Of course, you got your standard weather stuff with Arch, Basculegion, and Pelipper. And then the safety goggles and Annihilape, without a doubt, in my opinion, one of the most slept on mons in the format. I definitely think it's rising up and people are starting to understand the power behind this mon. But it really does just feel like it's the balance breaker, with Taunt, with, close combat, Final Gambit. You're very, very good into a lot of these hard Trick Room teams as well, whether, you're Final Gambiting something to allow your, your Banded Basculegion then to Wave Crash its friend and just, deny Trick Room. Of course, again, you go up against some of these like Porygon 2 teams where you can either just Final Gambit or Taunt it. It just feels super duper good, and it's a mod where, like, again, you pair this thing up with Basculegion and Archaladon, and it's like, well, they're like the main threats of the team, but you kind of can't just let the Annihilape sit there and click close combat 3 turns in a row, or if you give it a buffed up Rage Fist, it kind of goes crazy. And then again, you kind of add in this Greninja, which is like the last piece of the puzzle, where Water Shuriken into Archaladon, obviously very, very good, right? You're going to give it the 4 stacks there on the the stamina, meaning those body presses are going to do crazy damage. And then again, Annihilape, right? This is probably a max speed Annihilape on this team. You go Terra Water, you hit it 4 times, all of a sudden that Rage Fist now hits for 200 damage, and I mean, actually, sorry, I lied. I think it'd be 250 if it hits 4 times. And then yeah, it just starts kind of doing insane amounts of damage. So yeah, really cool tech here on the Greninja. Obviously a really cool mon, so it is really nice to see it. They're actually getting some good results too. Dude, there's actually like so much I could touch on here. So many teams. I won't go too in depth on everything here. Probably just talk about the top 8 for both teams. But this team here by Erich, basically this was the team I think a lot of people, especially coming into the GC, were seeing quite a lot. This is kind of just like the 2-2-2 team where like you've got Sneasler plus Indeedee, right? So you've got that really fast, expanding force plus, Terra Stella Sneasler combo. Of course, you got the Sand combo with Excadrill and T-Tar, and then you got that Mouse Ape combo, which again, just incredibly good. And Frengard Mousehold, once again, I feel like I can't stress this enough, is so goddamn good in this format, right? Especially next to like an AV Tita, makes this thing so damn tanky, right? Next to the Ape, of course, very, very good. Next to the Sneasler, like it's very simple. It is kind of like a 2-2-2 team, but there's a lot of cross synergy between these pieces, right? Especially too when you have things like Indeedee, Sneasler, just like chunking teams to set up for the Drill and the Tita. So yeah, really cool team there. And then finally as well, we'll talk about Brandon Davis's team here. Is this the weakness? Okay, I thought this was the policy stuff, but no, it's kind of just like a hybrid Tailwind team, right? Where you've got this, intimidating Salamence who can set up Tailwind, right? This is probably, I don't want to say a Turbo Bear, but probably a decently fast bear. Terra Electric Archaladon, one of my favorite Pokemon to play around with. If you've ever played Terra Electric Arch, you know how fun this thing is. It's a nuke button. It's really cool. And then of course as well, you got like the Armrouge, the Indeedee, like you got this like kind of Trick Room mode, and then the Flamigo as well actually is also really interesting in this format. One of the best mons into Goldango, which is again arguably the best Pokemon in the format. Of course, you got a fast Taunt as well, which is good for denying things like Tailwind on opposing Dragonites, of course, which is also really, really nice. And just in general, this is a pretty cool team overall. Of course, Salamence as well, dual Wing Beat into Sneasler is a fun, it's a pretty fun tech. So yeah, really, really cool team there. Is there anything else I kind of want to touch on? Like I could sit here all day, dude. This team here, Rillaboom plus Charizard. Did he go for the rainbow? I want to see the rainbow. No rainbow. Assuming there was going to be a rainbow. Oh, I've just closed the wrong tab. All right, well, I've closed the tab, boys, which means we're no longer looking at that event. We will go over here to Frankfurt. Because once again, we see the Ninetales here. And again, this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. Ninetales plus Goldengo plus Rillaboom. It just feels like such a damn good core right now. And again, you've got that Icy Wind support to buff up that Goldengo. Of course, on this team, it is a bit more offensive. But yeah, this is just a really cool team. If you guys didn't actually get to see this Blood Moon Ursaluna in action, you should go check it out. It was super damn annoying. He's just yording, protecting, being like really, really frustrating to deal with. The Sneasler set as well, the most honest Sneasler I have ever seen ever in my life. SD, acrobatics, close combat with Terra Flying. I love to see it, right? This is just, it's honest. That's what I like. There's no Diaclaw shenanigans from this team, which is really cool to see. But yeah, this is just, it's just a little bit of, you've got 2 setup pieces and you play around them. And then this Blood Moon Ursaluna is just, it was so damn annoying. If you guys didn't see the stream games, go check it out. Like just watching it like click, yawn, and protect and click, yawn, and protect. And then, eventually it just Blood Moons something and nukes it. It was really funny, but also like super annoying to watch. Like I could not imagine having to play against that thing. It was Yeah, it was a piece of work, man. Victor Mendina, though, of course, a very, very talented player here. Just running standard rain, nothing too crazy on this team. Probably won't go into it here. This is kind of just what you expect to see on these teams, and it's just showing that rain, once again, is still very, very good. Shohei Kimura, once again, showing off that mouse hold plus annihilate that we're touching on before. Again, a very, very strong combo. This is just a very good Doug team. For any of you who, I guess, haven't heard Doug in a while or don't know what Doug is, it's just the combination of Dragonite, Golden Go, and Ursaluna, DUG. I should have said it the other way, Dragonite, Ursaluna, Golden Go. It's just one of the best cores in the game. 3 very offensive pieces that all just have fantastic synergy. Of course, the Rillaboom, again, giving you grassy terrain, healing up those life. The leftovers is very good, of course, very good with Annihilate as well, and Blood Moon, Ursaluna. And then again, Friendguard, Maushold, just making Ape, Blood Moon, Golden Go, D-Knight, just, it makes them all so much tankier. And yeah, honestly, just Mouse Ape just feels really good right now. It's just good. Shohei Kimura, obviously, former world champion, so it is cool to see him running that. We do see a Scyther here in the top 4. I believe I saw something on Twitter about like a few of these guys. I think it was like 4 of them played a Scyther and like they all day 2'd or something, which is absolutely crazy when you think about it. But yeah, a Scyther, man, speed boost, life orb with expanding force, Lumina Crash, and dazzling gleam. Lumina Crash actually is such a cool move, especially if you have like other special attackers on the team that can use it. In this case, there really isn't that many, but I guess it's kind of just setting up for itself. But yeah, like making the opponent go -2 special defense before you hit him with an expanding force is kind of crazy. And then DD just obviously is like very good with it. Hydreigon is also another mon that we have seen picking up a bit recently, especially this safety goggles variant. It is interesting to see it without Tailwind. Most of the time you see it with Tailwind. I would be curious to know, I guess, what the idea behind it was. Because I personally I don't love the idea of it. Like, I guess in saying that, with Terra Ghost, it's a hard regular Ursaluna check. Like, with Levitate and Terra Ghost, regular Ursaluna just doesn't touch you. And it's also like, I mean, Snarl Hydreigon is also just like solid into size spam in general as well. So maybe it's just there to patch the Trick Room matchup, especially like, you know, if they have a Moongus or something. So I guess that there does make sense. Hisuian Arcanine with the close combat Mirror Herb set. This is just, hey, King Gambit can be kind of annoying because I'm running, you know, a semi-size spam team. So again, makes sense. Terrifying King Gambit with low kick of your own, again, makes sense. And then Sneasler here with the other throat chop shenanigans just so you can attack Golden Go. Again, makes sense. Just a really cool team. Really nice to see this one actually getting top 4. Anything else here? Again, we got another standard rain here by Fabian. I actually got a chance to play Nick Khan. He was like running this team at the at my local over the past weekend. It's annoying as hell. Sinister, again, like Sinister with like Archaladon makes it so hard to deal with, dude. If you don't have a quick way through this Archaladon, like something, I don't know, a Final Gambit Annihilate, yeah, Archaladon can be an absolute menace and incredibly tough to deal with. Super annoying team. Oliver Escalon as well, actually. This is another team I wanted to touch on because he brought Sableye. Like, I feel like Sableye is a mon we have not seen at all recently. And again, Oliver, obviously a fantastic player, you know, always getting very, very good results. But yeah, to see him out here with Sableye, I thought was crazy. And also as well, even crazier, we have the Friend Guard Pop Bomb Maushold set. No, I mean, do you like, is this because like you just gonna Terra Water the ape? Like, I'm just curious because I guess that gets you to +6, but I feel like you're taking so much damage. Even with that Technician, Pop Bomb feels like it does so much damage. Also, kind of crazy that they got Wide Lens without like T-Wave, but I guess Taunt's also really good. AV Blood Moon, Ursaluna behind screens again's like very good. Dude, these Miracle Seed Rillabooms are probably so sad that the Ursalunas are taking their AVs, but AV Blood Moon Ursaluna is so hard to deal with, and it like you put it behind screens, it becomes like impossible to kill this thing quickly. And next to Friend Guard too, it's like, yeah, it's really strong, dude. Like that AV Ursaluna, like if you guys haven't tested it, I would highly recommend giving it a crack. But the final two teams here, again, we won't touch on this one. We kind of, I mean, yeah, it's the exact same as Fabian's team here, 2 in the top 8, which is crazy. Juwan's team here, though, I believe we actually got to see this player on stream, and they hit like 4 straight fishes, which is absolutely crazy. You know, so shout outs to him. As much as you do hate to see it, it is actually really cool to see Dozo, especially solo Dozo, still getting some play. SD King Gambit, the bane of my existence. Absolutely hate this mon, but it's incredibly good, right? And you pair it with Coaching Sneasler. And it's powerful, dude. And also the other combo as well here I really like is the Bax plus Sneasler. Because Bax basically says, hey, I'm faster than your D-Knight, and I'm gonna kill your D-Knight. Straight up, either Scale Shot, Icicle Spear. The only thing it doesn't want to see is like Terra Steel D-Knight, but you know, in saying that, if they're going to play Terra Steel D-Knight, you got this bloke right here with CC, so you can kind of pin it between like Close Combat and Icicle Spear, which is really cool. But yeah, Ice Stab in this metagame is really good. It's a big reason why we are seeing Ninetales rise up. Obviously, it has a pretty solid typing as well into things like the Rain teams as well. Obviously, you don't love Archaladon, but the rest of the bonds you can kind of, you know, deal with them, get up some scale shots, and deal quite a bit of damage. And then finally as well, the Volcarona set on this one was like super interesting because it's like Cloak No Protect, but you're like Flame Body Rage Powder, but then some games you just click, you know, QD and then just like start attacking, which I thought was like really, really crazy. But yeah, really cool team by Juan there. Is there like anything else like super crazy I want to touch on here? Like Michael the Bestie as well played in one of these events. I saw this name, it kind of reminded me of it, but I think he got like 47 or something, right? Where is the Bestie? Am I looking at the wrong tournament maybe? No, I'm sure if the Bestie played, it would have been this one. Was it like 74? Oh yeah, it was 74. So yeah, shout out to the Bestie, running backs caliber as well there, dude. Obviously one of the best players in the world. Coming off, I think as well, one of his worst performances, which is crazy because the guy did just like top 8 worlds again like 2 months ago. But yeah, so really cool stuff there. I will see if I can pull up some usage stats and quickly discuss them, I guess, before we end the video for today. So unfortunately, I couldn't actually find any of the pretty graphics. I'm sure they're somewhere on Twitter or like through the VODs, but I unfortunately don't have time to go through it right now. But thankfully, Nimbasa Post here do actually have the usage stats here. You can kind of, you know, look through the points, the day 2 and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to mainly focus on day 2 because unfortunately, while we don't have day 1, I do think day 2 is most important. So let's kind of just talk about it, right? So this is for Frankfurt first. So Golden Go in first place. I do agree that this mon is the best Pokemon in the format. At least it's right there with probably D9 in my opinion. I'll tell you guys right now, for the GC and for my regional coming up, my teams always start with Goldango. I think it just has such a positive matchup into a lot of the top mons that to me, it just makes sense, right? When you have a look down, of course, it is a Pokemon that naturally does lose to Rillaboom. To Incineroar. You normally beat Rillaboom pretty handily. Of course, as well, you got the Sneasler. Sneaslers like can be annoying depending on the sets, but for the most part, if they aren't on, you know, these Indeedee teams, they can't really touch you. D-Knight's another mon that for the most part you resist, hence why some of them lately are actually opting to go for things like the Stomping Tantrum with Terra Ground. Ursaluna is a mon where these like AV adaptations care about you a lot less because like they don't care about your Terra. They'll just like Earth Power you into a Blood Moon and they don't really care. Ape is another mon where it's like kind of 50-50. They have to be max speed in order to beat you, but if you have any form of speed control like these, you know, these Rillabooms or these what we were talking about before, the Ninetales, the matchup does become a hell of a lot easier. Again, you're another Pokemon that's really good into Archaludon, right? If you get that +2, then you can really just nuke it with, you know, +2 Shadow Balls before they can set up. So yeah, really, really good, of course, you know, very good bond into Ninetales as well. You know, you go down the list, very, very good into Amoonguss. Depending on the matchup, you know, you have ways into Baskia Legion as well. Pretty bad into Vulcan, King Gambit. But yeah, list goes on and on. I definitely agree. Goldango, one of the best ones in the format. Incineroar here, obviously another top tier mon. Definitely a mon that has kind of fallen off, but it does still have very, very positive matchups, especially into Goldango and Dragonite in particular, and also Rillaboom as well. When you look at the top 5 mons, it's actually pretty solid, but it's when you start going down from there, it gets worse. But of course, having Knockoff and Blitz into the Goldangos is very good. A big reason as well why Goldies are starting to go for things like Grassy Seed, because it just allows you to tank a Knockoff, right, which forces them into Blitz, but if they Blitz into a Terra Water, it gets a bit dicey. Of course, you know, you can intimidate both the Incineroar, which again you resist its attacks, and the Sneasler. Sneasler can be a bit dicier just because again it has the close combat, it has the Dialog, can be super annoying, but also a very positive matchup into D-Knight. You have Intimidate, a lot of them these days are multi-scale. You also have Knockoff as well for that loaded dice, and if you can get a D-Knight to -1 and then knock off its loaded dice, it really, really neuters the mon and just makes it feel like so much worse to play. Obviously, your matchups into the rest of the mons here are not fantastic. Of course, the AV Blood Moons don't care too much. They'll eat anything and they'll just, you know, hit you with an Earth Power. Again, the Ape, they want you to they want you to intimidate them. Archaludon, if they're the AV variant, they don't really care. If you like do anything to it but like knock off, it doesn't care too much. But again, it's, you know, you're giving it that stack on the stamina anyway, and then on top of that, you know, you bring Incineroar into range, so it can get a bit dicey there. Of course, you know, decent matchup into the Ninetales and to things like, you know, the Amoonguss and the Volcarona, but right now the meta does feel like pretty hostile to Incin. Of course, it's still Incin, one of the best ones in the format, but it's definitely not where it once was. Rillaboom, I would say Rillaboom's like biggest thing, honestly, is just it has a good matchup into the Ursalunas, and its ability is just broken. I think that's kind of what makes this mon so good, because again, you look at these top mons, it's bad into Goldie, it's bad into Incin, it's bad into Sneasler, it's bad into D-Knight, you know, it's bad into Archaludon, but it's really good into the Ursalunas. And that's kind of the main thing going for it, right? It's really good into the Ursa Lunas, and its ability just allows, you know, your team to heal up. Also, it's like good into side spam, right? You got the Sneezers who are playing with the Indeedis, right? You've got the obviously like the Indeedee Armorages, the Indeedee hats. Like, it just gives you a mon where, like, with AV plus Terrafire, it's a mon that you can just like always bring into like side spam Sunroom stuff, and you'll still be okay. And again, you have like the terrain for Earthquake from regular Ursa Luna as well, which is like really, really good. Sneasler, this one's just bullshit. Fighting types in this format are fantastic, and Diaclaw is literally game winning. I played against a Sneasler on the weekend. I think I was in a pretty good position, and then it just double slept me. And then my D-Knight slept for 3 turns, and I lost the game. And yeah, it's Sneasler, man. I feel like I don't need to go too much into it. D-Knight, this is another mon I would say is probably in contention for the best mon in the format right now. Scale Shot just feels utterly broken. Hazing things like your own Goldango also feels really good, and of course, very good when you pair it up with things like Sneasler as well, right? You get like a speed boost, you know, maybe they intimidate you once or twice, you just haze them away, it feels good. It's also, you know, one of the bulky tailwind setters in the format right now. It deals so much damage. The mon's really, really good. Blood Moon Ursa Luna, kind of the same thing. This mon, it has 2 sets. You're either running Assault Vest or you're playing Life Orb. If you're playing Life Orb, you do ridiculous amounts of damage. If you play AV, you're just going to survive for a very, very long time. Ape, as we mentioned earlier, it kind of feels like the Swiss Army knife of the format. You can go the bulk up stuff, you know, with like mouse hold and just kind of ridiculous damage. You can use it as like, you know, your stalls, sorry, not your stall, your balance breaker / your you know, your hard trick room matchup, right? You know, it basically, again, you could deny stuff with taunt. It also just makes them think, oh shit, I can't just cycle around, you know, Incineroar, or just like, you know, set up by Golden Go or something like that. Also being immune to fake outs is like really, really good right now. And then the rest of the stuff here on the usage stats, I don't think I need to go too in depth onto how they play. Everyone knows Rain's one of the best archetypes in the format. Ninetales is just very, very good into Rain in particular. And I also just think, you know, having things like, you know, Blizzard into Pokemon like Rillaboom, into things like the D-Knight and the Ursa Lunas, it's just solid, really. So yeah, that's kind of that there. Anything major change over here? We do see, obviously, Monterrey here, quite a few less players. D-Knight was the #1 Pokemon. Annihilate, surprisingly enough, was #2. I'm actually shocked it is that high, but again, you know, I've been preaching this one feels really good. And then everything here, you know, again, it's a smaller pool. Of course, we are seeing quite a bit of Mouse Ape here as well. But the big one is Tita actually coming in at 8, making it the premier weather in day 2 of this event, which is actually very, very interesting, especially when you only see 1 Ninetales and 1 Pelipper here out of, you know, I don't know how many players, but obviously much less. So 38, it literally says it right here. So yeah, the metagame is in a really interesting spot. Sand is another archetype that continues to pick up. Obviously, you know, again, very good. I think Sandship just means Tita is just like solid into D-Knight, which again, I believe is arguably the best one in the format. When you look at it right now, you know, you break multi-scales, you've got knockoff for the Goldangos. Again, you don't like Rillaboom, just another reason why Rillaboom continues to hold on. But like Assault Vest Terra Flying like makes you pretty good into things like Ursa Luna as well. Again, Sandship into things like Sash Sneasler is also really solid. And even like Terra Flying into it as well, right? Because they kind of want to CC you, but if you call it right and then you hit them with the Terra Blast and then they die to Sandship, it feels good, man. It feels good. But yeah, anyway, I think that is enough rambling. This recording has gone for about 30 minutes. So by the time I chop it up, it'll probably just be a little bit under it. But yeah, I guess let me know what you guys think of the teams, of course. The main thing, and it's probably going to be on the thumbnail of this video, but Scyther won a regional. That is super cool. But honestly, I'm just excited to get back into it. Regulation H has been a lot of fun. I feel like I'm experimenting a bit more than I did last time, which I think is pretty nice. But also in saying that, we only have this format, I think, for like another month and a half, which is kind of crazy. I'm pretty sure we're meant to get something new at the start of December, but then at the same time, like nothing has been announced for December. So like maybe like we literally play this until November 30th, and then we like somehow jump into Champion start of next year. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think of these teams down below. I think this was a really cool weekend, and I was really happy to see some VGC getting played again. But yeah, anyway, that's it for this one, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.